Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. We always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra. And
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth telling, more problem solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Within this country. But let me be clear. Whatever I do is going to be in the best interest of each of you. Of each of you in West Benor and Caymanians generally. And before I make any final decision, I made this commitment. I said it in the first meeting, I said it on CMR, and I'll say it here tonight. Before I make any final decision, I am going to be coming back to this community and ensuring that you understand and support that decision. Because if you put me here, you elect me to be your member of parliament, then one of the most critical decisions I have to make, which is who I work with for the next 4 years, you also have to be a part of that decision and I have to ensure that all of you are a part of that decision. Now, tonight, guys, go ahead and clap. I don't mind a little bit of clapping. I see a lot of manifestos tonight. The manifesto has been the culmination of a lot of work. It's been the culmination of, obviously, my experiences. But more importantly, it really took shape since last October, when I really started to move around a lot more, being in what I would like to call an election mode in my mind, asking Caymanians, what's happening in your life? What do you see as the main issues? How is your family making it? You can feel those things generally, but I think it's very important to talk to people to get that direct feedback. And so that manifesto is a direct result of that feedback in terms of what people were consistently saying about what they were feeling was happening in our neighborhoods. And at this stage, the one thing that I want to make sure that everyone understands, if you look on the inside back page, there's a QR code. And so that QR code is live and it's for feedback. And so any of you that are interested, and I hope it's everybody, I encourage everyone, click that QR code and give me your feedback. Because as I said when we launched the manifesto, that is a live document. Just after Friday alone, I have another, I think it's 3 points that I'm going to be putting up on the website as the addendum points that we're going to put in the manifesto. Because I want to be able to be in a position on April the 30th that whenever I'm negotiating in regards to forming a government, I can say I was sent on a mandate, that I was sent on a very clear mandate, and this would be the mandate. That's why your feedback is so important, your ongoing feedback, because that's how politics should be. It shouldn't be about just jumping up and saying, well, you know, Rod's a nice guy. Well, you know, I can remember Rod from school, and man, I remember this, and I remember that. No, it should be about whether or not I can do the job You have the experience and the leadership skills to do the job. But more importantly, it's on the basis of this document. This is what you're electing me on. This is what you're electing me to work hard to deliver. Because that's how anyone that puts themselves up for office. That's how they should be running. You should be running with a clear um, set of goals in mind. You should have a very, very clear vision for where we want to be as Emmanuels. Because if we don't have a clear vision, we will continue to flounder. We will continue to flounder and not achieve our block fighting's potential. And for those of us who are in this audience that have children or grandchildren, let me tell you, what I see in Cayman at present is very, very scary.
Yep. Yeah.
Very scary.
That one. Yeah.
You think about immigration and the mess that we've had, especially over the last decade. If we look at the way education and the education system still does not put our children at the center and ensure that the outcomes are built purely with our children in mind. Because a great public education system should be the great social equalizer in any society. And I'm a product of that. I'm a product of that. The reason I am here tonight, the reason I've had the privilege of serving this community is because of a strong public education system that I took advantage of. Then we went on to university, then we went on to become a professional accountant, and then we went on to work and live in New York City. I would not have achieved any of that if it wasn't caring, involved parents, first of all, but also teachers. That has to be the bedrock of how we look to build the Cayman that we want to build the Cayman that can work for our children, to put our children in a position to become the best possible version of themselves. Housing. Look at the crisis we have in housing and the price of housing. Healthcare. The environment. I can go on and on and on. The truth is, you can close your eyes, cover your eyes, and throw a rock, and you will hit a major issue in this country. That is why we need strong, experienced, decisive leadership in this country. So I want to just touch on a couple of issues tonight. And for anyone that may have been, but I see a lot of new faces tonight, so let me make sure that everyone that's here understands what is your meetings, your socials, whatever you want to call them, what they're about. It's about me having, as you can see, no big stage, no nothing, short speech with a few issues, and then any of you who have questions, if you want to ask the question openly, ask it. If you don't feel quite so brave or a little shyer and you want to then do that one-on-one after I finished, that's fine too. But this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to have that one-on-one interaction with me versus the old style public meeting where I would roll up at a big stage, big speakers, and I'm blasting out a message, everyone claps, and we go home. Right? And there's a place for our rally. Trust me, we'll be having our opening campaign rally in less than 2 weeks' time. But our meetings are critically important to the entire process of the elections. Critically important. And so I want to cover a couple of points on my favorite subject, education. A lot of you have heard me talk about the fact that over the last 12 years, my plan for the Cayman Islands for the education center, SIFA, has completely dropped through the cracks. SciFac was intended to be the most all-important second chances for Caymanians. Let me refresh everyone's memory. Before SciFac, what happened? You were 16 plus. Those who did well and got enough passes in A-levels or university, they soared. They went on. What happened to everyone else? It was a cliff system. You were sent out into this world as a child. Because legally, you're not an adult until you're 18. And so, as a child, you were sent out into this world to make your way, to find your way. And having been through the system and having seen my friends go through that, I always said that if I was ever given the opportunity to make a difference, that was something I was going to change. And so that's why we formed the Cayman Islands Further Education Center, to give our young people that important second chance to reset math or English if you didn't pass it. But it was get to the point where SciFac offered a much broader range of resets. Because sometimes it is math or English that holds our young people back. But sometimes it's maturity. Sometimes it's just not listening to your parents, or perhaps not having that push and guidance from home. And so sometimes you will have a child who underachieved, but if you gave them the opportunity to reset their 5 subjects, 6 subjects, they would take it much more serious on that second time around, and those outcomes would be very different. And so I believe that anyone at the age of 16 plus should have been given that opportunity. What was the education council subject? But SciFac was supposed to become our national trade school. And so the vision was, excuse me, at that point, if a young person definitively showed the interest or the aptitude to take on the trades, then you would then have a broad range of technical subjects through apprenticeship programs. And not everything would be necessarily housed at SciFac. I always give the example of the Superior Auto Training Program. That would have become a licensed program. So what SciFac would have been is the National Trade School offering a broad range of technical, but also working with the private sector to license other programs that would get now, how are you going to get experience when you're 16 plus? But that was the reality. That still is the reality today. And so, when elected, not only am I going to make sure that we fast track and get the second phase of SciFac brought to fruition, we also need to have the third phase, which is that the trade school would be operational in the evenings. Because how many of you here as adults, would not potentially want to have the opportunity to go back and get a certification? It's a hope that you can't get right now. And so that would have been the third phase of SciFac, where in the evenings, adults would have a broad range of programming that they could attend and get a certificate in whatever their trade or vocation would be. Now, to underpin all of this, you'll see in the manifesto that I am proposing that we introduce in legislation what is called the education leaving age. And I'm proposing that to be 18 years old. Why is that important? That is important because it's going to be for the first time in this country's history, our beloved Cayman Islands history, that 18 years old will be the age that every Caymanian has to be in some approved education program. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. In other words, we'd be the equivalent of the majority of other countries in the world. In the United States, you have to go to school until you're 18. That's when high school ends. And so this would make us now equal to where the rest of the world is and where our people should be. Let's think about it. If 18 years old is considered adulthood, you should be out in this world and in a full-time job until you're an adult. And so that's what that policy, that legal change would do. That's what a legislative change would do. It would ensure that our young people are in some form of full-time learning up until they're 18. And so that would mean in their second year in SciFac, you would be continuing on whatever you did in year one if you weren't just doing resits to try and get back on mainstream and go to tertiary in terms of a UCCI or A-level college. And so, for an example, you have a young person, and we like to think of the trades of things like plumbers and electricians. So let's just say you started in year one, and you started out that program. Well, by year two, you'll be well advanced. And think about this. Government will be funding it because will be funding SciFac. And so this will take away all the excuses of employers in this country. Every employer will have access, and we will ensure that there will be no more excuses. Every young person will have to be placed. And how are we going to ensure that? If you go to the section on immigration, what I'm proposing is that government would look at the job market, the labor market, in any area that the government, through real data, sees that Caymanians are training for, and we want to guide Caymanians toward. We would set the quota. And if we want to have a situation where a specific vocation is reserved for Caymanians, we set the quota at zero. By setting the quota at zero, that would mean no work permits can be granted in that area. I'm not saying that's going to happen in day one. Okay, this is going to be a process. We have to get SciFac up and running. We have to get the programming running. We have to get the apprenticeships up and running. And every apprenticeship will be built just as Superior Law was built, driven by the private sector. In other words, we're not going to introduce some curriculum, have our young people go through it, and then when they go to the employer says, oh, that's the wrong course. That's not the course we want. The employers will be the ones that work along with the leadership at SciFac to choose the program. It will be their program that they want for their employees, and that takes all the excuses away. We have to be strategic about what we do. We have to be comprehensive in our thought process and our leadership in this country, and make sure that we are focusing on the employment of all Caymanians, especially our young people. How many people in this audience don't directly know, or at least have a family member or friend where there's a young person that's at home, unemployed, sending out resume after resume, application after application? The madness must end, and it ends with a strategic approach to how we are going to stream our young people in education. And in that second year of SciFac, all Caymanians must be in an apprenticeship program of their choice, and all of those placements must be filled. We have thousands of work permits, and quite frankly, any employer, and let me be clear on this, whether you're my family or my friend, if you're not a friend of the Cayman Islands, then in my opinion, you don't deserve a great business license.
Yeah.
You have to be serious about ensuring opportunity for young people. we cannot just be wishy-washy, as we've been now for decades, allowing the private sector to dictate what's happening in immigration, which has caused thousands of people to be backlogged, waiting to hear permanent residence in status application, which then increases our population and continues to crowd out Caymanians out of the labour market. And once we can achieve that mission, and that has to be the number one priority of the next government. It has to be the number one priority of the next government when it comes to education. Also in education, anyone that followed my journey and have seen the document that we produced, which is my accomplishments in education, knows very close, very dear to my heart was the work that I did at Lighthouse School. I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for inclusion. Inclusion for me is the same as the most vulnerable, voiceless members of our community. And so when I did my tour of schools and I spoke to the leadership team at the Lighthouse School, it quickly struck me that we weren't investing enough and we weren't investing strategically at the Lighthouse School. And so that's why we launched the program that was underpinned using iPads and technology and iPads. That is why we ensured that we invested in the apprenticeship and work program at Sunrise Adult Training Center, because I felt as though we needed to give every member of this society, not just the children that were mainstream, but every member of the society, every opportunity to achieve their fullest potential. And in fact, we were able to have young people who not only attended Lighthouse, but for specific subjects were able to go back to mainstream and attend high school and take up a number of O-level subjects. And that happened for the first time in the history of the Lighthouse School. And I am so proud of the individuals who had made it happen, but especially the students. Now, along with that, has been a vexing problem for our system, which has been assessment. A lot of our children in mainstream act out in class, get labeled bad behavior, bad children, purely because of the fact that we have not invested as much as we should in full inclusion in schools. And so we've had a number of children who sort of fall between a very funny crowd. They're not assessed to go to Lighthouse, but they're not assessed and supported enough in mainstream to achieve their full potential. And so it's that cadre of students, it's that group of students that need more of our attention, more of our commitment to ensure that we continue to build on the successes that was started when I was there. For the first time in the history of Cayman, we actually invested along with a private sector firm to be able to assess, train people for assessment for autism locally. And that was a big game changer for us during my term, because we were able to understand more deeply and fully what was happening with so many children in our system and support them so that they would not be continuing to act out, be labeled as poorly behaved or bad children, when all that was happening was due to a lack of assessment and then surrounding them with the support services they need to stay in mainstream school and be able to achieve their fullest potential. Just a few weeks ago, I was visiting a family here in West Bay North, and the mother was almost came to tears because her son, her child, had been labeled as such. He had been assessed and he had been prescribed medication. And what she noticed as a mother was that the medication wasn't working, but some of his behaviors were becoming worse, they were becoming more acute. And so, as she rightly should, as a mother who was advocating for her child, she bucked the system and she went to school and she told the aid scientists and the professionals she was not going to give her child the medicine. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that this is the case in every case. I'm not saying this is the case in every case. But she challenged the system to the point that everyone looked on and said, okay, we're going to follow what you're seeing at home with your son. And so what has happened is that this young man settled down, role model student, and is now one of the highest achieving students in our system. This is, to me, that was a classic case of how inclusion is supposed to work. It is about assessment, but it's also about the parent being involved. Parents have to continue to be involved, and there has to be that support around every child. Just think of a circle. Our children and each child is at the center of our education, and surrounding them is the teachers, the education psychologists, social workers, most importantly, the parents. It is all of us, all of those parties working together to be able to ensure that our children have the greatest opportunity to maximize their potential. And that's what we have to continue to focus on. Because if we do that, we then build the Cayman that we all want. We then build the Cayman that we all can be proud of. We then ensure that employment in Cayman continues to rise in terms of the number of Caymanians in the workforce and the number of Caymanians who can help us recreate the middle class that has been decimated in this country. Decimated. Let's be honest about it. And this journey starts on April 30th, ladies and gentlemen. And I say, not just in West Bay North, I say to every Caymanian, look at your candidate.
Yeah.
Do not vote for people purely because of a party that they belong to. Vote for the candidate that you believe is going to be the best for you and your country. I'm going to use an analogy that my niece used a few weeks ago when I was watching a podcast she was on. And I'm probably not going to say it exactly the way she did, but you get the point. She made the point that when voting for a candidate, think of it like catching the bus and you want to get somewhere, right? Let's just say that you want to get to Boston Town. Or the analogy that she drew was vote for the candidate that is going to get you to Boston Town, the one that's going to get you to that destination. And the destination we want is a Cayman Islands where we are solving our own problems. We're working hard. Caymanians are in good, adequate housing. Our children have access to good quality education, can maximize their potential, get a good job, eventually own their own home and have their being. Because let's face it, that's what we want. Now, if a Caymanian happens to become a multi-millionaire along the way, great. afraid that you make it even further. But that's the minimum threshold that we want in our country. Let me make sure I'm being clear. I'm going to be clear on this next point. There's a funny thing with this thing called entitlement. We have had many outsiders, and sometimes our own people, who have browbeaten us so long that people don't even want to get up and mention that word because it's a bad word. What is a bad word is assuming that you don't have to show up to work and do a hard day's work for your pay. That's the thing that we want to avoid. But if Caymanians aren't entitled to the first opportunities first in this country, then where can we get entitled? If we're not building our immigration regime for Caymanians, you are entitled to get the best immigration regime that works for you. You're entitled to get access to the best possible health care. Because in every other country, Americans are entitled to certain benefits in their country. We can't go into the United States of America and say we're entitled to something or another.
Correct.
And so if we're not entitled to good governance and having the type of leaders who are going to deliver for you so that your lives and your children's lives can be the best possible that they can be, then we ought to just not even show up and vote at the polls. But I can tell you that we have hope in this country. And we have hope for a new Cayman, a new day, and that new day has to start on May the 1st, but it starts with every one of you, and every one of you who's listening via social media tonight, going to the polls and voting for the best possible candidate to be that bus driver that is going to get the Cayman Islands to the closest point, and that is fulfilling the promises and the critical promises that are made during an election campaign.
I agree.
Number one.
So,
Vote number one. Get the job done.
the last point that I just want to make is, and I have to touch on immigration. I can tell you, I'm going to warn everyone, this manifesto got launched just yesterday. I can tell you that there's going to be those in differing industries who's going to get up and they're going to say, oh, no. These plans that Rolston are proposing, they're unworkable. They're going to cause us to not get access to the talent we need.
What about them? The talent is Caymanian.
Well, here's what I have to say. Rolston Anglin graduated from the Ohio State University with honors. He passed the CPA exam. He worked at Prince Waterhouse, now PwC. He lived and worked in New York. No one is going to come to me with any, as my mother and my parents and old people used to say, Bernard's stories. No one is going to be coming to me with any foolishness. No one is going to be coming to me with any scare tactics. We must have a hard global policy in this country, and it must be accepted here. The next administration, as soon as the ink dries on our assent to the Parliament, and those who are being blessed enough to be cabinet ministers, as soon as the ink dries, we must put in place an immigration review team and give them a mandate that within 6 months, they have the recommendations, so that within the next 3 to 6 months, we can draft the legislation, so that in 12 months, we can come back to the public with a white paper, give you 30 to 60 days of review and consultation, and take it to the Parliament. Because in the meantime, I am proposing that from May 1st, we put an immediate freeze on hearing any permanent residency or days on tenure. Of course, if you're Caymanian descent or if you're a person married to Caymanian, you can still go through the system as you were. Let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen, there is already a backlog of thousands. And so there's still going to be thousands of applications that's going to be heard because those people's applications are already in. And by natural justice, those applications have to be heard. But I'm talking about effective May the 1st. The last time we passed major immigration legislation, I was on the immigration review team. And that law came into effect the 1st of January 2004. And what happened was, when we put a rollover policy in place, thousands of foreign nationals who were in the private sector went to government, went to work for government, work for Cayman Islands government to avoid rollover policy. And so I am proposing that we put an immediate freeze on the hiring of foreign nationals by the Cayman Islands government. Other than persons who are in any profession that we believe to be critically important to the country. So that would be things like nurses, doctors, teachers, etc. Just those very narrow and restricted professions. We shouldn't be hiring any more non-nationals to be CFOs up in ministries, chief HR officers, when we got hundreds of Caymanians. And so we also need to re-implement what I call the national service policy. Any Caymanian who's on scholarship and is not tied to a private sector company should be bonded to the Cayman Islands government. And that doesn't mean everyone's going to be guaranteed a job, but certainly it puts down an important stake, because what we did in Cayman Islands was an interesting thing. When I first got elected, one of the complaints that we got was that by bonding students, we were artificially inflating civil service, because there were instances where there were jobs being created even though a job wasn't needed. And so that too has its downside, as we can accept. Not just loop the civil service artificially and have multiples of millions of dollars spent on salaries and long-term pension and care if we don't need the people. But the opposite has taken root. And we cannot continue down this road where we have hundreds of Caymanians of scholarship, yet the civil service, through their HR departments, who have non-Caymanians, or let's put it this way, let me correct myself, non-generational Caymanians, who are simply hiring their own people. I have not been elected for 12 years, ladies and gentlemen, but I can tell civil servants this. I would be the best person to work with. Ask all those people who are in the Ministry of Education up there. But people of West Bay North send me back to Parliament, and if I'm able to be a member of a new government, please understand that that means that we are going to be tough when it comes to Caymanians. That means that we're going to be tough when it comes to protecting the interests of Caymanians. So we expect a wishy-washy guy who you can just simply say, well, you know, Minister, we want to do this, we want to do that. No. It is about the Cayman Islands. It's about the people of the Cayman Islands. That is what an election process should be about. And I can tell you that's what it's going to be about with me. This is about us. This is about how we're going to move forward. And so I'm also going to proposing that we end the system of one country and two systems. We cannot continue to have an immigration system that applies to the private sector that does not apply to the public sector. We cannot. And so what I'm proposing is that after the elections and we pass our new immigration regime And I am proposing in the transitional provision, so before any hierarchy even comes back to us, that we implement this policy as it relates to the public sector. And so you might be saying, well, Rolston, what about an agency that might need persons that are not Caymanians? And that exists. Let's use teaching, for example. Let's think about the agency. And so in my proposal, what every one of those agencies will have to do is that we will form a committee of the entire Parliament. And the committee of the entire Parliament and the heads of those agencies will have to come to Parliament and make their case as to why they should A, not be subjected to rollover, and if it's not being subjected to rollover, why a specific quota, because we need to hold people to account, not just the private sector, but in the public sector, where we say to them, look, if you want to have this right, then you have to convince the Parliament, and the Parliament, on behalf of the people, vote and approve that. That shouldn't be just approved by the cabinet. I've been there. The senior civil servants and those in that hierarchy, those who are fair and for Caymanians, like working with me. Those that didn't, probably not so much, but they know what I'm saying to be true. And so, if you can't go to the Parliament and plead your case, then why should you be given the exemption? This is our country. It's us, the taxpayers, that are paying all the salaries. Our taxes pay the salaries. And so, therefore, the representatives need to be doing their work.
Yes.
No more than just watching this, making excuses. Oh, well, I was in the opposition. Oh, well, I was this, I was that. No, the Parliament has important work to do, and that is going to be one of the important tasks of the next government. But ladies and gentlemen, I promise to not be too long, and I hopefully I've delivered on that promise. I just want all of you to, any of you that haven't gotten a copy, and this is not for Westfield, not. This is about the Cayman Islands. Westfield North is simply an artificial division set up in a constitution and by a boundaries commission. This is about the Cayman Islands. Now I'm running Westfield North on the basis of this, but this is about the Cayman Islands. So any of you who are here tonight and want a copy, please take a copy, but also remember I do believe in conservation as well. There's an electronic copy available on my website, rolstonforwbn.ky. rolstonforwbn.ky. So you can read this electronically, and as I said, in the inside back corner. So you can do this on the screen as well, on your laptop screen, wherever you are. Scan the QR code. I heard that lady here say that you don't have one. We'll get your child or your grandchild to do it. They have one. They know what the QR code is. They know what the QR code is. Scan this QR code, give me your feedback. We need to be working to build the Cayman that we can be proud of, a Cayman that works for Caymanians. This is the only place that we can legally call our own. Well, I guess we can call the UK too, but thanks, but no thanks. I'm a Caymanian. I'm a Caymanian. And this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be buried. And this is the place I want my children, your grandchildren to thrive, and make the most of their lives.
Bring it back.
So with that, I would open it up to anyone who might have any questions. Because I know she'll act a little, well, she may act a little shy, but she's not in Westfield. You can tell her that she's a good company down here. As you all will see me on CMR, I'll tell Sandra that not only do I face the top questions on CMR, I'll face the top questions here too. And so any of you, give Sandra a warm welcome. And so any questions that you may have. Now, if you want to ask the question one-on-one, that's fine too. But I'm just giving this opportunity if anybody has a question that you might think, well, you know what, I'm thinking this, and maybe a few other people are thinking this. So let me just ask it now. So, any questions? Ms. Blondie?
Right. So Robert, like, Mr. Anglin, I would like to find out if when you are elected and you are in cabinet or parliament, when it comes to succession plan for Caymanians, would you be able to look strongly into those persons that are qualified Caymanians, some of the highest qualifications, and they are stagnant down to the bottom, can't move up, but others come in, take right over. Would you be able to look into that?
So the question that was asked is about Caymanians being facing stagnation in the workplace and the workforce. I didn't cover this blonde, but if you look at the manifesto, one of the things that I'm proposing is a wholesale revamp of our business staffing plan model. Right now, that model is completely broken. Companies send in their business staffing plan, it can be in whatever format they want. It's manual, some of it can be digital, but it's practically impossible to monitor. Under my proposal, see, government sometimes has to spend a little bit of money to invest in technology to make jobs easier and to work for us. So what I'm proposing is that we will work with the private sector and build our business staffing plan portal. And so every company, and most of the instances that you would be referring to as Blondie would qualify for a business staffing plan. And so those companies would have to submit their business staffing plans in the portal. That does a number of things automatically. It allows us to monitor them a lot easier because we in a format that the business staffing plan board can actually police. The other thing that we will do is that we're going to test whatever they say. It has to be tested economically. I've been told, well, I suspect, Andrew, that this gathering has been so good that it's caused for life. I think there may be a little worried that some action is happening on the rest regards tonight. But so it's going to get to that point. Being able to police those plans, being able to test the economic viability of those plans, we use the input, but we use the transparency. Things we're going to build a system that's anonymous, so that persons can then be able to lodge complaints to a fair and retribution. And that is one of the key ways that we will hold companies accountable and really know what's happening with the Americans. So hopefully that goes along with the answer to your question. The public sector is a little more challenging, but that is something you would have to work with senior leadership to make them understand that it's a new day and we're not taking any more risks. Because we know, because I've heard, I've been in some of you over the years, we work with the public sector and how something happens. Their supervisors don't like that, this one, that one, they don't like that, and their careers get set. Any other questions? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't appear like we have any more questions. There are questions, only questions, and we do have some action overhead with the RCIPS helicopter. Um, and so, with that, I will call this portion of the meeting to a close. Sandra, as you can see, a very lovely meeting. Good turnout. Best of luck. Thank you for coming out. Wesley Gardens. I see a number of my good friends here from Wesley Gardens. I see the neighbors right here. I see a number of Wesley Gardens residents. Thank you all for coming out. And let me be clear, we're going to be back in Wesley Gardens 2 more times before the campaign is over. So we're doing another area social like this. Then we're going to have another more general social, like where's my friend Chilo here.
When they gonna have the next
He was here a little bit earlier, but we're going to be talking about his yard as well. And so, and then of course, I'm going to be back here doing another round of your visits. We did go around for this meeting, but we split up into teams so I can get to every house. So I'm going to be coming back. Every resident here, you would want to talk to me because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be a member of parliament. You have to be comfortable to be able to do exactly what I am. It's highly crucial that everyone is in the day. So value you are as a community. Value you are as part of the destiny and the best agent. And with that, good night.
when they gonna have the next meeting on it?
Good to see your friend.
Yeah. Wait, what? Wait, no.
You watch it?
Yeah, I watches it. Yeah, yeah. Very good. It's Sanjay.
Hey, darling, how are you?
Good morning. Good to see you, Leslie. Hold on. Always want to see you, Mom. But it is good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Good, good.
Okay. Hi, my darling.
How are the boys? Oh my God.
The diners in Vancouver are hot. Yeah, so I love you. We're having the best time. Freezing a little bit, but not too bad. You're doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things are good? That's why it's all this.
Yep, I'm good.
They sent a helicopter came for you. I know. Right? To protect you.
Shop, please. We don't need them.
I know,